50 years ago, America declared war on poverty. Since then, we've spent $22 trillion on that war. But we didn't win. Often we made poverty worse, more intractable. Of course, some poor people were helped. You spend $22 trillion on something and you're going to help some people. Also, for the first 7 years of the war, the poverty level did drop significantly. Hooray! But look at what happened next. Improvement stopped. Despite 50 years of massive wealth creation in America, the poverty rate stayed about the same. Well, it went up and down, but overall, it stayed roughly level. Why didn't the improvement continue? Because government handouts encouraged poor people to stay poor, to not get a job, to not get married even. Heck, if there was a man with a job in the house when a welfare worker came, you might lose your welfare check. You'd probably lose it if you got a decent job, too. So lots of people don't try. Instead, they ask for handouts. What should government do to help people in need?
Give them money.
At this food stamps and job center, people are accustomed to handouts and want more. Within a few blocks of here, a dozen restaurants told us they're eager to hire people if only people would apply. But those in the welfare line say things like this.
There's nothing out there. Nothing.
There are no jobs?
No, nothing in my field. I'm a medical assistant.
And what about going outside your field and working in a restaurant?
No, restaurant is not going to give me the money I need to stay where I am.
But not working and getting government aid will let her stay where she is. So she does. That's how handouts discourage work. So what should we do to help the poor? Get government out of the way, or mostly out of the way, so the market can work its magic. That's happened recently in much of the world. For thousands of years, life looked like this for lots of people. But since 1990, says the World Bank, the number of people living in extreme poverty has dropped by half. 1 billion people who once lived like that no longer do. This is the biggest unpublicized story of the century. Thanks to the magic of the free market, 1 billion people are no longer miserably poor. Over the past few decades, more countries figured out that if you reduce corruption and allow free trade and leave people mostly alone, that creates economic growth. And that capitalism will change their lives forever. We have a long way to go. Another billion of the world's 7 billion people still live in extreme poverty. Extreme defined as trying to live on less than $1.25 a day. The market could also work its magic for them and enhance the lives of America's poor if our government just did less. Let's look at that poverty rate chart again. But this time I added the years right before the war on poverty was declared. As you see, Americans were already lifting themselves out of poverty before welfare. Then the war on poverty began and progress continued for a bit, but then progress basically stopped. We had the solution before the war on poverty began. Rule of law and limited government. That brings economic growth. Americans would have continued to lift themselves out of poverty had government not interfered by encouraging people to be so dependent. Today, if we could just limit government's constant interference, we could end most poverty by letting markets work their magic.